5 Creepy True Boardwalk Horror Stories. 1. The Shadow in the Funhouse, Ocean City, Maryland. In 2014, 17-year-old Emily and her friends decided to visit a well-known boardwalk amusement park in Ocean City, Maryland. It was their last summer before college, and they wanted to relive their childhood memories one last time. Among the attractions was an old funhouse, a dark maze filled with mirrors, strobe lights, and eerie music. The moment Emily stepped inside, she felt something was off. The air was thick. The laughter of other visitors seemed distant, and she had the strange sensation of being watched. As she moved through the maze of distorted mirrors, she kept glimpsing something that shouldn't have been there. A tall, shadowy figure stood in the corners of her vision, just out of focus. At first, she thought it was a cleverly placed prop, part of the haunted theme. But as she progressed deeper, she realized that every time she moved, the shadow moved too. It was following her. Trying to shake her nerves, she hurried through the corridors until she turned a corner and crashed into what she assumed was another visitor. But when she looked up, she saw a figure standing inches away from her, a man unnaturally tall and draped in darkness. His face was obscured by the dim lighting, but Emily swore she saw his chest rise and fall as if he were breathing. She screamed and stumbled backward, her heart pounding. But in the blink of an eye, the figure was gone. When she finally found her friends, she told them what had happened. They brushed it off as paranoia, but when she later mentioned it to a ride operator, his face paled. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked. According to the legend years ago, a maintenance worker had died in the funhouse after becoming trapped behind a malfunctioning animatronic. By the time anyone found him, it was too late. Some say his spirit never left, forever roaming the halls, searching for a way out. 2. The Vanishing Boy, Coney Island, New York. It was a warm summer evening in 1992 when a young couple, Mark and Lisa, took a romantic stroll along the Coney Island boardwalk. The lights from the amusement park shimmered in the distance, and the salty breeze carried the sounds of distant laughter and crashing waves. As they walked, Mark noticed something strange. A small boy, no older than 6, standing barefoot near the edge of the boardwalk. He wore an old-fashioned blue and white bathing suit, the kind popular in the early 1900s. His dark hair was damp and he seemed lost. Lisa immediately felt concerned. "Where are your parents?" she asked, stepping closer. The boy didn't answer. He simply stood there, his wide eyes staring straight through them. Mark turned away for a moment to flag down a nearby security guard, but when he turned back, the boy was gone. They searched frantically, running down the boardwalk, but he had disappeared without a trace. When they reported the sighting to the officer, he sighed. "You're not the first to see him," he said grimly. Legend has it that in the early 1900s, a young boy drowned near the pier after slipping into the rough waters below. Since then, visitors have reported seeing a ghostly child who appears lost, only to vanish moments later. Some claim to hear the faint sounds of splashing beneath the boardwalk, even when the water is calm. The Man in the Pier Shack, Santa Cruz, California. In 2007, a group of teenagers dared each other to explore an abandoned fisherman's shack beneath the Santa Cruz boardwalk. The shack, built decades earlier, had been boarded up for years. Some claimed it was haunted, and rumors swirled that strange noises could be heard coming from inside. Ignoring the warnings, the teens waited until after dark and crept under the boardwalk, flashlights in hand. The shack smelled of salt, mildew, and something else, something rotting. Inside, they found old fishing nets, rusted hooks, and shattered glass. But as they turned to leave, a deep, ragged breath echoed through the small space. "Did you hear that?" one of them whispered. Then came the sound of footsteps. One of the teens turned and saw a man, hunched over, his clothes tattered and his face obscured by shadows. He stood completely still, staring at them. Panic surged through the group. They bolted for the exit, but one of them, Jake, tripped on a broken board. As he scrambled to his feet, he felt something cold and rough wrap around his ankle. He screamed as he was yanked backward. His friends grabbed him and pulled him away, running until they reached the safety of the boardwalk. When they looked back, the shack was silent, empty. Later, an old fisherman told them about a hermit who had lived in that shack decades earlier. He was an outcast, known for his violent outbursts, and one night he vanished without a trace. Some believe his restless spirit never left. The Woman on the Ferris Wheel, Wildwood, New Jersey. Daniel, a carnival worker at the Wildwood Boardwalk, was finishing his shift one night in 2011 when he heard a creaking noise from the Ferris wheel. When he looked up, he saw a lone woman seated near the top, gazing down at him. She wore a pale blue dress, and her long dark hair moved slightly in the breeze. "The ride is closed," he called up. She didn't respond. Confused, he turned to grab his radio to call security. But when he looked back up, the seat was empty. Shaken, he checked the security footage later that night. The cameras had captured him talking to someone. Yet in the footage, there was no one sitting in the Ferris wheel seat. Some employees believe she is the spirit of a woman who fell from the ride in the 1970s in a tragic accident. Though decades have passed, it seems she still returns to her favorite ride. 5. The Whispering Carousel, Atlantic City, New Jersey. In 2018, a father took his young daughter to a Boardwalk amusement park in Atlantic City. She begged to ride the carousel, so he bought her a ticket and watched as she climbed onto a beautiful white horse. As the carousel spun, he noticed his daughter laughing and talking animatedly. When she got off, he asked, "Who were you talking to?" "The lady in the blue dress," she said. "She told me a secret." Chilled, he asked what the secret was. "She said she used to live here, but she drowned." There had been no one else on the carousel. Later, he discovered an eerie fact. Years ago, a woman in a blue dress had fallen into the ocean near the boardwalk and drowned. Some say her spirit lingers, whispering secrets to those who listen.